As you know, the Iowa Republican Caucus was a few days ago, and as per viewer request, I'm giving my take on the results. The results were former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney winning by a narrow margin. Now, this narrow margin was over the other front runner, former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum. Romney defeated Santorum by only 8 votes, winning by 3,015 to 3,007. These results were announced by the Republican Party officials on Wednesday. In third place was the insurgent Libertarian in the Republican Party, Ron Paul, by a small margin. The remaining candidates composed the other 30% of the vote. Newt Gingrich at 13, Rick Perry at 10, Michelle Bachmann at 6, and former U.S. Ambassador to China, Jon Huntsman, who might as well have not even shown up, at 1%. It's important to note that while Mitt Romney was the winner, Iowa only counts for 1% of the population. Thus, it has almost a negligible effect on the final vote on becoming the presidential nominee. To put it simply, as Al Jazeera's Alan Fisher says, you can't win the presidential nomination in Iowa, but you can lose it. The biggest boost to Romney was the endorsement of former presidential candidate John McCain. He said, "I'm really here for one reason and one reason only, and that is to make sure we make Mitt Romney the next president of the United States of America." That's quite an endorsement. It was the poor showing in Iowa that led Michelle Bachmann, the Minnesota congresswoman, to quit her bid for nomination for the Republican presidential candidate. She was the Tea Party favorite, expecting to do well with their backing. Not only that, but she was born in Iowa, and that led many to believe that she would at least receive a good boost from that fact alone. However, that was not the case. It was disastrous. Her campaign was also hampered by a string of unfortunate events. Many fact-checking blogs have exposed lies that she's made and exaggerations she's made. Despite all that, one of the real harms to her bid has come from her ultra-Christian fundamentalism views. Her previous statement about closing down the U.S. Embassy in Iran that doesn't exist is a red flag to any left or center-leaning Republican. Personally, I think it's a good sign that Bachmann had such a bad showing in Iowa. To me, it may demonstrate a shift, even a small one, away from religious fundamentalism that pervades American politics. Newt Gingrich has suffered immensely in his campaign. Previously, he was doing quite well among conservative voters. In fact, he was the front runner in many public polls. However, if not all the damage has come from a multi-million-dollar campaign attack that has supposedly come from a third-party source. Gingrich himself seems to believe that it was the work of Romney. During the debate, he lost his cool and outright called Romney a liar for denying he knew anything about the ads. Ron Paul has been doing better than he ever has in the past. That's a fact. He has cash, and he has very committed followers, and they are followers despite what they might say. The rise in popularity is not unexpected. The American public, both the Democrat and Republican, are tired of war and tired of large debt. These two problems are on the mind of almost all voters. Even though both sides have different views on how to solve these problems, they both have a common ground in acknowledging them. Unfortunately for Paul, his extreme solutions are causing a bipartisan division that could give him more support. His desire to end expensive military operation bodes well with liberals, but his economic policy, which would be devastating to human life, is completely alienating to them. Conservatives, on the other hand, support his economic policy, but detest his stance on military operations, which they believe would leave America vulnerable to perceived threats. It's because of this main factor and a few smaller ones that Ron Paul won't win nomination for president. As many of his followers, as well as he himself sometimes seems to forget, he's in the Republican Party. It's obvious that libertarian principles will conflict with Republican principles. And to finish it off, as for Jon Huntsman, who got 1% of the vote, I guess that makes Jon Huntsman the 1%.